Hello, hello, guys. How are you? All right, so we're going to continue with talking about a lot of things on IDEA and in IDEA. And we're going back to the basics, kind of like yesterday. And for the past couple days, we've gone through preparing for an IEP and everything that goes in it. So if you have not listened to those videos, there's one from yesterday. The one before that is all about preparing for the IEP in the right way. So go back and listen to those. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks, the IEP. And I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. With that said, if you are new to catching me live, watching me live, however you want to say it, post a 1 below. I want to get to know you. Everybody else wants to get to know you. So do not be shy. Post a 1 below. If you're an oldie but goodie, post a 2 below. You guys know what to do. All right. And if you're new, there's a group. And in that group, so much happens that is not like this page, okay? You get to know people, you ask questions, all these different things. So join the group if you haven't. It's Autism Mama Rocks, the IEP group. Just stick it in the search bar and you're good to go. Make sure here too to push notifications so you know when I go live. Hey, Christina, how are you? All right, so let's get started. It's Friday. Anybody doing anything fun today at all? I know here in Virginia, we're moving to phase 3. So that's a good thing. I know in some of these states, it's not looking good, but hopefully in your state it is. So, all right. So today we're going to talk about a couple things. The qualified teacher thing. Oh, guys, I can't wait to talk to you about this. And it sounds awesome. Qualified teachers, highly qualified teachers. That's what's put into IDEA. That's what the school system hires. Okay. And that is who is teaching our children. Now, kind of a disclaimer. I am speaking in no way, shape, or form in reference to any teacher. And I love teachers. I'm a teacher myself. And I want you in no way to think that I am downplaying you or how hard you work or anything like that. However, I am an IEP advocate and I keep it real to my parents and to anybody else that I talk to. And if I didn't keep it real, then I wouldn't be who I am today, meaning just a person that is really bold when it comes to the IEP. I have no filter, so to speak. And what I mean by that is I've gotten to a place where it's kind of at that point where it just doesn't matter anymore, you know? And if you're at the beginning of this game, so to speak, process, you're going to see that it is not smooth sailing. It never will be. Perfection, never, and that's okay. No one expects that. However, the games and the things that are played and, you know, instead of just straight up transparency as to what's going on and mistakes that can happen that you and I would be understanding of if it was brought to our attention immediately and owned. The unfortunate part is that doesn't happen. And now, I'm not saying it never does, but typically it doesn't. And that is where a lot of frustrations arise. That is where the emotional and taxing experience of this process comes about and is spoken about. And you've probably heard about if you haven't already gone through it. But as awesome as many teachers are, most teachers, Gen Ed specifically, don't have a whole lot of input and anything more than what the child's doing in the Gen Ed setting to bring to the table, if that makes sense. So they don't have a whole lot of power, so to speak, when it comes to special education. All right. They provide as a team member what provisions and what things go on in the gen ed classroom. Okay. So with that said, we're going to talk about highly qualified teachers. All right. Hi, Lupe. Christina, how are you? Oh, they paused it, huh? That sucks. Yeah. Hey, Nicole, how are you? Okay, so if you're hopping on, post a 1 below if you're new, catching me live, post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Don't be shy. Okay. So hopefully you guys are doing something fun this weekend. Yeah. So do something fun. Get out of the house, do something fun, clear your head. Anybody that's on my email list, check your emails tonight. I have an email going out. All right. So, gosh, where do I start with this, guys? This is a tough one. All right. So when it comes to teachers, all right, in IDEA, okay, it's stated in section 1400 that your child will be taught by a highly qualified teacher. So if you're anything like me, when you first read that in the law and take away my experience, okay, I interpreted that as, like above and beyond, a license teacher, she got their bachelor's degree, master's degree, whatever in teaching, right? And my daughter's a teacher. So, it's one of those things where that in itself is highly qualified. All right. But when I'm reading it, okay, and maybe when you're reading it, an idea, highly qualified, sounds completely different than what it is. All right. And so I even remember that I made complaints based off this. They're not highly qualified. And then it would come back as a failure, and it was not founded because they were. So if you have teachers that are failing to provide adequate education to your child, that doesn't mean that they're not highly qualified. Crazy, right? Or if you have a teacher that is failing to have high expectations of your child, that does not change their quality or them being very educated, however it may be, and there's this fine line that gets real sticky here. All right. So I'm going to go into this some more. So teachers with knowledge that are highly qualified should be able to provide scientifically based instruction and be able to provide scientifically based instructional strategies and practices. Unfortunately, today and a year previous, that is not the case in most senses, okay, in most situations. I have not come across many teachers in the special education arena who can even speak a whole lot to, I'm trying to be real careful with my wording, but it's not personal. It's not. So if you take it personal and you're a teacher, sorry, but I'm just going to keep it real. That's all I can do. Is most don't know scientifically based strategies. They just don't. They don't understand how to write goals. They don't understand how to write SMART goals. I know this for a fact because I've seen so many IEPs that are just atrocious. And their goals are just so, like some of them will have 2, 3, 4 goals in one. There's no data put in there as to how data is going to be collected. I'm one of those people who have made this mistake over and over. And now I quickly catch it. It's like it's something, kind of meets the eye, so to speak. And it drives me crazy because I'm like, who wrote these goals? Who wrote them? And you need to know that. All right. I've been in a situation where I had no idea who wrote my child's goals. And you don't want to be in that situation. Learn from my mistakes, okay? Yeah, learn from my mistakes. Don't do it, okay? I feel like that's how I've gotten kind of where I am today because I've made a crap ton of mistakes in this process. And, 6.5 years of mistake at one after another, and just an extremely taxing emotional experience. And that does not mean I'm not in the trenches with you now. I am. I'm going through having to teach my child and having to go through all of the stresses that is coming about because of COVID. And so we are in the trenches together. So don't believe any IEP advocate that says, oh, everything's great on my end. Nothing's ever been a problem. And be careful of advocates too, guys, that have not been there and done that. All right. That doesn't mean they don't have knowledge. It just means that unless you've actually really fought for your own child in an IEP meeting, I don't feel you have as much to bring to the table. I talk to a lot of COPA advocates all the time. Oh, I'm going to post something for you guys too that just came out on the 23rd with OSEP, a huge. All right, I got to post that. Remind me, anybody that's on here, remind me to post the OSEP post that was posted. All right, huge information. So with that said, guys, don't get confused with what's called highly qualified. All it means is they're licensed. That's it. They're licensed by the state that you are in. That is it. Okay? Reading specialist, licensed in the state that you're in. It's only a couple more classes for the reading. And guess what? They're not trained in Orton Gillingham. They're not trained in any type of specific methodology. So you have this generalistic person who's going to teach children, specifically, dear God, with dyslexia, for God's sake, and have no training in Orton Gillingham process, which is scientifically based and research based. And this is what I mean about highly qualified teachers really not being highly qualified. All right. And it's not meaning that they didn't go to school, that they're not teachers. They are. But, and in an under idea, this is where it catches me and I'm kind of conflicting with this, is that's what it states. It's not one of those things that they have to have specific rigid things. It's straight up licensed in your state. That's it. And that's a hard thing for me to digest because the problem today is how each child uniquely and individually learns is going to be different. So let's just look at it like this. All right. Say you have you have a child. Okay. Say you send them to me and I'm a teacher. And how I teach, the way I teach, even though I'm one of those teachers that are willing to change it up and do what I got to do to make it happen. Sometimes that's not doable, possibly in a classroom of 28 to 30 something kids, and the school's not providing a one-on-one for your child. They're not providing possibly a para to help the teacher in the classroom. So the teacher's stuck. Your child's in the least restrictive environment, and they're having to kind of teach other kids and your child, and they have no training whatsoever in the Orton Gillingham process. That's actually something you have to be certified in to teach. I'm almost done with my training, not certification, but the training, because I had to. My child learns that way. And, with COVID, things have gotten difficult. So I said, screw it. I got to do the training. But I am considering doing the certification of there's individual and group, because if I have to end up teaching her, what else am I going to do? I got to do it, right? But very few teachers, let's just go to reading specialists, because that's like my hot topic right now. They're not Orton Gillingham trained, all right? And what a lot of schools are doing with these highly qualified teachers that are simply licensed, which is fine, but they're not highly qualified in my opinion. Because highly qualified, in my opinion, is they have extensive training, all right? Highly qualified to me. So for example, take a doctor. Okay. You have MDs that are highly qualified. Why? Because they have years and years of schooling, and then medical school. and then, they have to actually put what they learned into action for a period of time before they're all on their own. Well, a teacher, all right, goes to school for 4 years. They do their last year in a classroom, 9 months. And that's it. That's all I had to do. And yeah, I went on, I got my master's, but my master's is in educational leadership. And bottom line, I'm not highly qualified. Okay? I'm a teacher. That's it. Basics. Okay? Highly qualified. Now I'm getting that high qualification as far as teaching, but I'm not teaching, is, with the Orton Gillingham for reading, but that's it. Okay, so highly qualified. Tell me. I'd love to hear from you guys. What, in your opinion, is highly qualified? I want to hear your opinion on that because we all think about it differently. And I think it would be really cool if you guys posted what you thought. Maybe I should ask that question in my group. See, that's what I do in the group, guys. I'm curious of your thought process on highly qualified. Is it just a teacher, 4 years degree? Is it a master's degree? Is that highly qualified? Or is highly qualified a teacher, which now in Virginia, you have to have your master's. And then they have extensive training in ways in which to teach a child. Because our children learn in a unique way. Our children are eyes. I call them eyes. They have an individual way in which they learn. All children do, actually. But our children specifically are individualized because how they learn is crucial to if they're going to make progress. Period. How they learn, I'm going to say that again, is crucial to if they're going to make progress. If they're going to make progress. Because it's how they are taught that is the key. And the generalistic one-size-fits-all thought process is and has to go away. And it's up to you to make that change. You have to go and be a pain in their ass. You have to go and make sure that you push for what is research and scientifically based, even if you don't know if it works, because they don't either. So they cannot say no to something that they factually don't know will or will not work. Same thing with ESY, guys, okay? They cannot say no based off the big question mark of the unknown. They can't. They do, but they can't typically, legally. So it's kind of like, okay, so if my child regresses or my child is not where they need to be by the time school year starts because you failed to give my child ESY, I'm holding you liable. And so you have to look at it like, what is it that you're willing, what extent is it that you're willing to go, to what extent, to make sure that there's highly qualified teachers actually educating your children? Okay? Because if you're not seeing progress, something is wrong. Something is not working, and it has to change. It cannot be the simplistic way in which they say, oh, let's just give him time. Give him time. He'll be fine. He's going to learn. Just give him time. Nope. You don't even want to know what I tell them when they say that. All right? You don't even want to know the words that come out of my mouth. All right? Because it's such crap. All right? Do not fall for that, guys. Okay? That is like their key sentence. Just give it some time. Your child will learn. Just give it some time. And sometimes you can say, if your child's just beginning, okay, but we're going to put a cap on that time that we're talking about here. Okay? So that time needs to be determined by time. Okay? So what I mean by that is if you're going to say, the school's going to say, okay, just give it time. Your child's going to learn. They're going to learn. Okay, cool. So you come back and say, because maybe you haven't given them the time yet. So we're a team, right? So we're going to give them the time. We're going to make them happy. All right? So we're going to say, okay, I'll give you some time. I'll give my child some time, but I'm going to give you some time too. And that time is going to be 60 to 90 days. You choose. You choose. Don't let them choose. You choose. You choose by going with your gut. What does your gut say? In that meeting, there's this thing, all right, that you feel as a parent, all right? I can't explain it. I can't tell you what it is exactly that you feel. Some people call it gut instincts. Some people call it that little whisper in their ear. Whatever you want to call it, I don't care, but listen to it, all right? And it's going to tell you exactly, do the thing that whisper, that gut feeling says, the first thing that comes to your mind. It's kind of like when you take a test and you're like guessing and you're just not sure, but something quickly comes to your mind and you're like, okay, it's A, right? But then you choose B or C because you're like, maybe it's this one. And then A ends up being the answer. Same concept. All right? Go with that first feeling, that first thought. All right? And say it 60 or 90 days. That's all you're giving them to show progress. If not, it's going to be your way. And that's what I say. It's going to be my way if you can't show me this progress in this amount of time. Do we got a deal? And so you're at least working with them. You're giving them time so your child can have time as well, because they're saying, just give them time, give them time. So you're appeasing them, and possibly they're right. If you're wrong and you think that things need to change and they think just give them time and you go ahead and appease them and they end up being right, tell them, okay? Tell them, say you were right. But we need to understand that we need to work like that, all right? There's times where I'm going to be right. There's times where you're going to be right. That's where teamwork comes in, all right? But you always give a time frame. So if they say, oh, give them time, you make sure you give them time too, okay? I see you guys. I'm going to say hi in just a second. I got Logie and Cynthia and Tony and Kim and Jan and Darla. That's awesome. All right, so I'm going to get with you guys. Let me just stay focused, all right, on this highly qualified teacher stuff. All right, so with that said, I'm going to read this to you, okay? It's from IDEA. It says, Congress also found that education of children with disabilities can be made more effective if all school personnel who worked with children with disabilities received high quality, intensive professional development and training to ensure that they have the skills and knowledge necessary to improve the academic achievement of functional performance of children with disabilities, including the use of scientifically based instructional practices to the maximum extent possible. Go find that, highlight it, and make sure you take it to every meeting. All right? Because that is the key. Highly qualified, intensive professional development and training to ensure they have the knowledge necessary to improve the academic achievement and functional performance of your child. Okay? Not a license to teach. I don't care. Obviously, you're in the school system because you have a license. You can teach. All right. We all got that part. What else do you got? What else do you got to bring to the table? Okay? Because that's important. And if any teachers, again, take this offensively, this isn't about you. This is about the kids. It's not about you. It's about how our kids are taught, and failure is happening. It may not be you who's failing them, but somebody is, okay? And we need to address that because there is a gap, which is what we're going to talk about next, in a lot of our children's education. And that does not just happen, okay? That is a at-fault person who is not educating our children in the most adequate, appropriate way in which they learn. Okay? Because how your child learns is not how my child learns. How someone else's child learns is not how our child learns. Okay? So teachers actually have to be trained, high quality, intensive professional development. All right? Now, go ask your school system. I got a challenge for y'all. Go ask your school system what high quality, intensive professional development and training that they give to their teachers. All right, let them tell them you want a list. After you get that list, then ask them how many hours do they give per training. Let me tell you something that school systems do. Not only will they just give a basic 6-hour, sometimes 12-hour, sometimes 16-hour, that's about it, training, all right? Then get this, just hypothetically, say I go get a 12-hour training. Then they'll tell me to come back into the school and train other people. I just learned. What do you mean? I got to go put it into work and actually do it and practice. And, everybody learns somewhere. But you're telling me to go back and train other individuals within the school system after I just took a 12-week program? That's crazy, right? So you can't do that. I'm busy. So you can't do that. So you need to make sure that you are on top of that, all right? You need to make sure that you address that in every way, shape, or form. My husband just brought me a coffee, but I'm like, dude, I'm trying to focus here. All right. So I want you to know that. I want you to ask questions. I want you to not be afraid to push for more. All right. Find out what this is. Find out what they offer, because I can tell you it's not a lot. It's not. All right. And that's obvious. That's not even something that you could question because it's clear. All right. Now, again, I'm not going to say this over and over. I'm going to say it one more time. I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying every school. But you know what? There is gaps. There is issues in every school district. All right. I've worked with many. And there is issues with each one. Now, there's ones that are better than others. There's ones that actually will work with you better than others. But have I seen them all be great? No. Are they all having issues with this training? Yes. That I have seen across the board. Across the board. So please make sure you ask about what training they give. Please ask about how many hours they give. Ask to see documentation of the hours given to who is teaching your child. From who? Okay, you can ask that. You can ask how many hours your child's teacher has had in, say, Orton Gillingham. Okay? Or whatever it is specialized that your child needs. Ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Find out, because you're going to find out really quick that they didn't have intensive training. Because in my opinion, 12 hours is not intensive. That's a half a day or day and a half of training. Okay, that's cool. That's good. They should have that. But that's not intensive training. Intensive training is not 12 hours. I mean, that's cake. Anybody could do that. And it's not intensive. It's a basic stepping stone to intensive, but it's not intensive. Okay? All right. All right. So I'm not going to get into No Child Left Behind. I'm not talking about that today. That's another subject. All right. But I am going to talk about going from knowledge and skills and scientifically based instructional practices that teachers should have, and they don't typically. I'm going to move on to closing the gap. All right. Because I think the two have a lot to do with one another. And I think that, you need to focus more on this together. So if you're taking notes, you need to make sure that you put highly qualified teachers in sync and next to closing the gap. All right. So the whole purpose of highly qualified education that your child should get is based off the highly qualified, supposedly highly qualified, hopefully supposedly highly qualified teachers. All right. And if these teachers are not highly qualified in the sense of intensive professional training on different methodologies, which is going to be another topic probably tomorrow, then there's a problem, okay? Because this is supposed to be done to the maximum extent possible. Your child should be taught by a teacher that's not only highly qualified, but with intensive professional training so that your child's academic achievement and functional performance shows that the person that just taught them was trained in an intensive way to be able to deliver whatever methodology it is. Okay? and it better be scientifically based and researched. All right. So I'm not talking about No Child Left Behind, but the No Child Left Behind Act, all right, I'm not going to go into it, is to ensure that all children have a fair and equal and significant opportunity, all right, to obtain high quality education, all right. And that's, again, to the maximum extent possible. And also, it's to reach a proficiency level that is high, all right. So in IDEA, what it states is by meeting the educational needs of low achieving students, including students with disabilities, and closing the achievement gap between high and low performing children, and ensure access of children to effective, scientifically based instructional strategies and challenging academic content. So what that's saying, all right, in so many words, is that all children have a right to a high quality education. That's number one. Number two, what it's saying is it means at a minimum proficiency, meaning it shouldn't be so extensive that they can't catch on, but it should be extensive enough to where it's proficient, they're meeting their academic achievement and functional performance, and their progress is going up, and they're not having low expectations of our children, all right? That they have the same, equal to, than they do children with non-disabilities, okay? So if I have two children, older children, they actually, today is my son's birthday. He is 20. And my daughter, 2 days ago on the 24th, turned 24. So I have a 24, 20, and then Skylar's going to be 15. And the two older ones are typical. And then Skylar has special needs and disabilities. So you have to make sure that you understand that all children deserve the same thing. The only difference is that children with disabilities have that eye. All right. But in reality, in my opinion, they all have an eye. I have an eye. So in meeting the children's needs, you have to focus on their unique, I like saying unique needs versus individual needs, because we all have individual needs, right? So individual should be across the board with every human being, and unique is the same thing, in my opinion. So you know what it tells me? That children with special needs are just like you and I. They just learn differently. They have quirks. They have different issues and things that need to happen and work on. And it's one of those things where I think that so many things need to just come into play with the wording and verbiage there. Just because obviously they have disabilities, they have things that may slow them down or whatever it may be, right? Medical issues, etc. But people that have non-disabilities have medical issues too. They have disabilities, possibly they had back surgery and there's now a disability. So it's like, I like to really just think of my child, and I'm sure you like to do the same, is they're just like all of us. They just have their unique individual needs, as we all do. Just my way of thinking of things, so that you're not separating people. We're all the same and we can come together. So meeting their educational needs with high expectations, not low expectations, and not in that low performing arena, which, again, I'm sorry if it offends anybody, but true, teachers get lazy. Administration gets lazy. They want to have low expectations and just kind of throw these easy goals out there and throw whatever they want on progress reports. Believe me, I know. I have been told by teachers directly. We just put stuff down there sometimes because the parents are such a pain in the ass. Yep, directly from the teacher's mouth. Several. Okay? So I'm telling you, you gotta question things, because if you don't, your child might be one of those that they just throw something on that progress report and you're believing it. You gotta test what's being said. You gotta challenge it. And don't let 3, 4, 5 years go and you didn't do that and you realize none of those progress reports are accurate. Nothing in which you saw that they provided to you was accurate. Because because as your child gets older, you're seeing, okay, wait a second, something's not right here. They said my child could do this, and then all of a sudden, maybe 3-4 years later, you see that your child can't do that. Because sometimes it's difficult because sometimes what they do in school is not something that they do at home. But somewhere along the line, you're gonna see what's going on, and you're going to figure it out. And some people catch on sooner rather than later, but I want you guys to catch this now. All right. And that, you know what? If it didn't happen, that's awesome. But don't let it happen and you not know, and you not be educated and have the knowledge that it does happen. It may not be happening to your child, but it does happen, and you want to make sure you know about it and you're aware and you can catch those things early on. All right. So closing the gap. Let's talk about that for a second. All right. So when I talk about low expectations, okay, it's hard because, a lot of school systems and districts have lower expectations because of laziness. A lot of schools will say things like, you need to really wake up, or you really need to look at the whole picture because your child's disability, they're not able to get to that point. Or they may say it in a little more tactful way of, we're not sure if your child can get there, or your child's kind of capped and we're pushing and we're continuing to push them forward, but it hasn't happened yet. Just different things, that they'll say to blame it on the child or the situation, then take the responsibility themselves. So you're going to catch on to those words, but pay attention to them, because don't believe them unless you, in your heart of hearts, after you come to with and deal with the fact that your child has a disability. I know that's hard. I know it took me, 2 years to really digest, everything, with Skylar and having autism and thinking, oh my God, how is it going to be when she grows up? And is she going to ever get married? And, is she going to ever get her own place? And, all the things that us parents think about. And so it took me a long time to kind of get over myself, so to speak, and deal with what was, and just not think, of anything else but the present. But that's not how things should be when it comes to goals and where you want your child, because how you see your child at 20, 25 is how you need to think today in reference to creating the right goals and the right provisions and education and transitions that they do. Okay. So you can, if your child's like on a diploma track, you could be thinking possibly college. If your child's on an alternative track, you could possibly be thinking like a technical school or something. So these are things that can be put into transitions once they turn 14 to 16. And so your thought process needs to be at 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 of where you want your child to be, so that you can now create goals that are based off that. So if you're anything like me, I'm at the point where I care about reading and math. Do I care if my child is awesome at science? No, I don't. But you may. So you have to think about what it is that's important to you and where you want your child to be at 20 to 25. And then that's going to really help you create the right goals and get your child on the right path. And that has to be communicated, because if you're, when your child's young, you're probably not there yet. But as your child gets closer to middle school, you really have to start thinking about, where do I want my child? Where do I want to see my child at 20 to 25, so that I can properly create the right goals for them so that they're on that right track. All right. And then think about what they're good at. And then at 14 to 16, get them into all the different things that are available to them, because believe it or not, outside services are supposed to come in to serve your child in reference to transitions. So if that means someone takes them shopping, or, they get to work at Goodwill or somewhere else, anywhere, different services have to actually provide that, and the school system has to arrange it. So you need to be thinking of those things when it comes to your child and bridging that gap as best as possible, and then closing it as soon as possible. All right, I know that for some of us it's never going to be fully closed, but if you can get it as close as possible. I know in my head as a mom, I used to say, you know what, I don't care if she's 2 or 3 years behind. Okay, you guys may think I'm crazy, but I really don't, because how I looked at it, as I walked and this was part of me just digesting everything. And I'm just being open with you of how I've thought throughout the years, of even now, do I really care if she's 2 to 3 years behind? No. Why? Because at 25, 3 years behind is not huge, right? But does that mean I want it to go beyond that? What do you mean what I mean, Tony? You'll have to explain to me. Do I want it to go beyond the 2 to 3 years? No. But if I mentally, I'm a picture person, which is why, guys, in reading, you have to get the imagery part before you can learn to read. Or so for children, especially with dyslexia or have trouble reading, they have to get the imagery part before they can ever get anywhere else. And so when I picture in my brain, Skylar, and I picture, where I want her to be, all right, is 2 and 3 years going to be a huge hit? No. So that's me looking out to 20 to 25. So if she's 25 and she's at a 21, 22 level of a person, I don't care. But if she is, so for example, where it even makes more of an impact is, say you have a 4th grader still on a kindergarten level. So that's where there's that kind of hiccup as to kind of wrapping your head around what's appropriate, what's best for them. All right. So does that mean if your child's in 4th grade and they're on a kindergarten level that it's the end of the world? No. Does it mean it's okay or appropriate? No. Does it mean that you should do something about it? Yes. Should you bridge that gap? Should you close that gap? Yes. What I'm saying right now is, because we're going to talk about closing the gap even more, what I'm saying is, if it stays, say it stays consistent at a 2 to 3 year, it won't be the end of the world. But that does not mean that you don't consistently fight and have those high expectations so it never gets worse than that. All right? And you always keep pushing. But if you're seeing somewhere along the line that it's staying at that rate, 1, every year get your psychoeducational. 2, question everything that's happening. Test every goal at the progress report time of what they're saying. If you can't test it, because obviously not everybody's teachers, go have somebody test it for you, because you want to make sure that there's honesty there and that it's not just being filled out. Because as I've told you guys, I want everybody to be that parent. You want to be that parent. You don't want to be the parent that kisses the teacher's butt to get more information. You don't want to be the parent that is the teacher's pet. You are not going to get the information you want doing that. You're not. I can promise you that. They're playing you. Okay? So don't do that. All right? I've talked to so many parents who have said, oh, the teacher and I are really good friends. We get along great. Well, if you're friends outside of school and you hang out, go grab a beer together, go to a movie or whatever, okay, cool. That's fine. Trust her or him. But if not, and you're not friends outside of them teaching your child, which, believe it or not, is a conflict of interest, but okay, then you're not friends, okay? They're really not telling you things that they should tell you. They're telling you what you need to hear. Sometimes I've heard of teachers actually telling you more than they should, and then they get in trouble, and it just becomes this crazy mess. Stop being friends with the teachers, okay? You're not friends. They teach your child. They're doing a job for your child. That you have to look at this as a business, all right? The school is supposed to teach your child. You are like the boss, really, because what do bosses do? They make sure that their employees are doing their job. That is your job, to make sure that they are doing their job so that that gap does not spread. Okay? I know this is a really tough conversation, isn't it? There's going to be a lot of people that probably hate me over this one. All right. So with that said, all right. So Logie said, or hold on, let me scroll up. Cynthia says, highly qualified is a bunch of bull. In my opinion, I have heard it all year, but yet discovered starting 6 to 10 that the school held him back 1 to 10. Okay. Kim says, good evening. Hello. Jan says, hi. Also, if you're on here, post a 1 below. If you're new to catching me live, post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. You guys know what to do. Make sure you click notifications too so you know when I'm going live. Darla says, don't let the teachers lie to you. Write a journal. Kim says, I will definitely have to listen to this video again after. I was asked to be on a committee for the school. It hasn't started yet due to COVID and schools being closed. Once it's back up, this will be something that I will hopefully be able to use. Is that what you meant? Logie says, I know where my daughter goes to school. Her teachers has said that they didn't receive any special training for kids like my girl. Yeah, a lot of teachers will actually admit it and tell you, which is not a bad thing. It's not like there's some sort of, order, but that's a problem. Hi, Maria. How are you? But that's a problem with today. It's like we have all these teachers that are just basic teachers, and there's nothing wrong with that, guys. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not doing it for our kids. It's not doing it. So if maybe they need to dissect it, maybe you need kind of like doctors. You got pediatricians, and then you got heart surgeons and gastroenterologists and everything else. So maybe we need to have general teachers, which is your pediatrician, and then we need to have highly qualified teachers with extensive training in methodologies that work and so on and so forth. But to not have an open mind and be afraid, which obviously I'm not, of other people's opinions based on true fact. All right. This is based off numbers, guys. Numbers. Okay. So many children with special needs are not learning. They're failing. They're behind. There's a huge gap in where they should be. All right. That's not happening for no reason. All right. No, we can't blame any one person or one thing or entity, but there is a problem and something needs to happen about it. Many different things, not just one thing of training teachers and giving them intensive training. But don't say they're highly qualified if they're not. They're teachers, okay? It's kind of like, I used to teach online for Strayer and online college for business. I'm not highly qualified because my second, bachelor's is in business administration. I'm not highly qualified in it. I got a degree in it. That's it. There's no high qualifications. I went to college. I got a 4-year degree in business administration. I went to college. I got a degree in education, my master's in educational leadership. It is what it is. I think you're highly qualified. In a minute. You're highly qualified when you have those things and you continuously learn and you continuously put into action what it is that you were educated to do. My thing too is you don't have to have a degree to be highly qualified, in my opinion. Now, in the educational setting, yes. But for example, there's a lot of parents that I know who teach their kids better than the teachers teach them. And they're not highly qualified, but you know what? They actually put themselves through some trainings that help them learn more. And who knows their child best? Parents. So do you see how there's different things that can be done to continue that training, to continue figuring out how to close that gap? And I'll tell you one of the number one things that has to happen today in almost every school division in every district, and that is training. The districts have got to properly train their darn employees. I'm begging you, because the kids are the ones suffering. The kids. So it needs to happen. It should be mandatory for them to have serious, intensive training. There should not be one person within a district that has knowledge and experience and intensive training in dyslexia. That is insane. Because that one person cannot train a bunch of people like that to be effective in this. They need to be trained individually on their own, or go take a class, or whatever it is that they need to do. I personally think that all reading specialists need to be certified individually and group in Orton Gillingham, because reading specialists are going to be the ones teaching children with dyslexia and dyspraxia and all those things that are going on today. And guess what? Most of them are not. They're not. And they're doing, I don't know if you guys know about Fontes and Pinnell, but if I were you, kick that shit to the curb. I'm just going to be real honest with you there. It's horrible. Horrible. I will post all kinds of things on it. I actually spoke with one of the writers of it, and it is not what schools are doing. All right. And a lot of schools are actually making their educators basically teach the children how to memorize before they take the test, so that the school division gets higher scores, which gives them more funding, which gives them where, you know, when you look up the internet and it tells you about the school division scores and all that, it gives them those higher scores. So they're actually making teachers. I have a report from a teacher where she was fired because she refused to teach her kids to memorize and then assess and take the test, versus just take the test and find out where they really are. So yeah, these things are happening today, guys. So I just want to make you aware. And what you do with the knowledge is what you do with it. But you need to be aware. It's not to scare you. It's not to worry you any more than you already are. But I don't want you to not know. And, you know, I know that a lot of us are dealing with this. I know a lot of us are struggling with this. And if people don't wake up and stop being offended to actually, hey, you got to learn a little bit more. You got to go take a course on to be able to really teach a child with special needs, because how Amy learns is not how Joey learns. And so you kind of need to be that person who is able to change up how you're teaching so that Amy and Joey can both learn. And so that's what has to happen today. That's the change that needs to happen today. There's a lot of changes in the world that needs to happen, but this is one of them in regards to children with special needs and education. Okay. And I know personally that this is not, there's certain things that children who are completely typical in a gen ed setting that simply have like dyslexia and smaller type disabilities that are not really, they don't even have an IEP, that there's not proper education on teaching them where that gap is, where that issue is, and their struggle. And this is the problem. Okay. So in closing that gap, it's very important to have those highly qualified teachers with the knowledge and experience and extensive training to be able and qualified truthfully to be able to close that gap. All right. The gap is where your child is grade level to where they are testing it, or educationally, or if you look at your psychoeducational, where they are at a, say they're on a first grade level, second grade level, etc. So you want to find out, you know, what that is. And then you also can look and be open to looking at where they are in comparison to other children. I don't really like to do that, but it will give you a good eyes view on where your child is in comparison to children in their grade level. However, I discourage parents of children with special needs, even children with children who don't have special needs, in comparing one to the other, because we're all different, and differences don't change just based off of the thought process of, hey, you need to change what you're doing and how you learn. Kids learn the way they learn. That's why, there's those 3 different ways of learning, but there's even more than that for children with special needs, because it's how that they are taught, not so much, did they see it? Did they touch it? Did they, all those different ways in learning, the 3 different ways. What is it? See it, touch it, and then what's the other one, y'all? I'm like totally like brain freeze. See it, and then there's the tactile one, the touch it, and then there's the, hear it. So just make sure that you find out. All right. I think you will be very surprised. Okay. And ask for logs of your child's data. All right. I'm going to post about this soon, of what to specifically ask for in your records request. Yeah. All right. Because the administration does not like it when you ask for the logs, and do not want to give that to you. All right. So Kim says, that's what I said during my son's IEP meeting this year, that I wanted him push in more gen ed, going more into getting the regular classes, that I eventually want him in regular classes with some support. Maybe it's because the teacher was lazy and not doing what he needed. I've been doing this for many years. I have 6 kids and grandchildren. Tony says districts try to get away with whatever they can. That is what is needed, Raven. We need specialized teachers. Yeah. Yep. All right. All right. Okay. I think we talked about that, Tony, that we have kids like the same age almost. Thank you, Kim. Yeah, I have to call him again today to say happy birthday again. He's in the military, so he's not here. All right. So if you're hopping on and you've caught this, you guys know I sometimes do lives like this where, in this arena with special education, it's not going to be for everybody. It's not going to be speaking to everyone and their needs. But fact is fact, y'all. It is what it is. And, that it's a big problem with today, is how our children are learning and how there's such huge gaps. And, if schools were so interested in closing these gaps, they would train their teachers better. And what I mean by that is specific research-based training with methodologies, scientifically based instructional training and practices. For example, with math, there's different ways of learning. Kids don't always have to do like touch math. There has to be some provisions for children with special needs as long as they're being watched, and obviously cheating's not happening, where if it just comes to their brain and they know the answer because they're able to formulate it in their brain but not know how to actually put it into writing and show their work. But if it shows without them cheating and you're watching them and they just come up with the answer, there has to be some sort of accommodations that allow that, because that may just be their thing. And if they can formulate whatever happened in their brain and come up with the answer, that's genius in my opinion. And if you're watching them and they didn't look at a calculator or something like that, then obviously they're coming up with the answer. And who cares if they show their work? But I get why math teachers do that. However, at the end of the day, when they're all grown, we ain't gonna be writing out our work, okay? So just look at it like that. We ain't gonna be writing it out. I don't think I've written out math in forever. I get out my phone and I do the math. All right. So think about that, guys. Be more open. A lot of teachers, I know a child actually got kicked out of her classroom because he wouldn't do the work and write out the work in the math. And, those things have to stop as well, because children, again, learn and do things differently. And as long as obviously they're not cheating and doing things that they shouldn't be doing, there has to be some sort of fine line of what can be approved and what cannot be approved, because you can't have these general rules and policies that don't work for children with special needs. Okay? You just can't. So that's why things are actually different for children with special needs, and that through the ADA, it talks all about it. So, the provisions are different. So it has to work like that in the school system as well. So I'm talking about this, guys, because when you guys go back to school, you are going to have some surprises. I see it happening now, and I see some serious issues coming our way. And, you have teachers that have been off for quite a bit of time, and you have COVID happening. You have them going back to school and doing their teacher meetings and things like that. But guess what? There's not a lot of training going on right now. And so that's problematic and can be problematic. And I know, with my daughter having had so much trouble with reading, I can tell you straight up that none of the teachers here in this county are trained in Orton-Gillingham. None of the teachers in this county have extensive training in reading at all. All right? I looked up my daughter's last reading specialist and on the VDOE website. And it says, like what their licensure is. All right, so you can actually look up your teachers. And it goes through the licensure, and she actually has some sort of certificate or something in exceptional children or emotional disturbance and disability, I think is what it said. And in my mind, I'm like laughing because, and this is bad, I shouldn't be laughing, but in my mind, I'm like, are you serious? Because she literally committed a total OCR complaint based off of not providing accommodations because she decided to play God. And I won't go into the complaints and that sort of thing, but in my mind, I'm thinking, how does a teacher that is supposed to have training, not that my child doesn't have emotional disturbance, but that has training in that, have the audacity to ignore my child, this happened recently, to ignore my child's accommodations, to decide on her own that this wasn't necessary. I'm sorry. Did something happen that, made you in charge of everything? So these are things that you got to look at. All right. You've got to look at these things. You've got to pay attention and be on top of it. And, I had a parent say to me once, a couple times, I work. I don't know how you do what you do. Obviously this is what I do for a job, but I don't know how you stay on top of things like this. And, I just need help because I work. I don't have time to do all this. I want to, but I don't have time. I have to work and put food on the table. And, this could be a full-time job. I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, it has been with my child, and I'm like, dear God, it's ongoing. So you have got to, once you get a grip on it, you need to not ever let that grip go. Okay? And like I've said in other lives, if it's good and it's real good and it's quiet, be more alert. Okay? Because you gotta be alert. All right? You gotta be alert. You got to know what's going on. You got to pay attention. And you know what? I know most of you do, because that's why you're on this page. That's why you guys are on the group. I can tell you guys are, really committed to really digging into this. I know many of you are in my course and have taken my course, and it's amazing how much you guys have learned and are putting it into action, which is amazing. And with that said, on another note, okay, let's squash all the possible negativity. And it's really not negativity, it's truth, guys. It's truth. And it's just an unfortunate truth. All right. And as I've said over and over, it's not everybody or every place or every district, but it's happening a lot. So I call it how I see it. With that said, Monday, the service accommodation and modifications mini course will be launching live. So you will be able to grab it. I know many of you have said, is it ready? Is it ready? Is it ready? It is ready. It is ready. Okay. I'm just not giving it to you yet. No, it's ready. I'll be launching it on Monday and putting it out there. So just wait for that. And I'm really excited about it. It's great. And, I think you guys really like it. It'll really help you in really diving into all the services, accommodations, and modifications that are out there, along with the laws that are contingent to it, and how OCR complaints are missed. And that's civil rights, guys. That's your right, your child's rights that are abused and neglected. Not all the time, but it happens a lot. And a lot of us parents miss it. And you don't want to do that. You always want to hold people accountable. And I truly, truly believe that. I know when I've made bad decisions, I'm sure you know when you've made bad decisions, what happens? We have to pay the price, right? So it's the same thing. If someone's screwing with our kids' education, they need to pay the price. That is just how I think about it. All right? Especially if it's intentional. If you're not implementing my child's IEP as it's written, that is purposeful, because it's right there in writing. Go read it. All right? Do you know how many people, literally teachers, educators, are not reading your child's IEP? Truth. All right. All right, guys. Yeah, awesome, right, Logie? My brain is on IEP from the moment my eyes open. Darla says, I'm an older mom and I'm going to have to homeschool. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. Tony says, I'm fortunate enough to be home. I can't imagine the parents. Yeah, parents that have to work, it's tough. And yeah, it's tough. So I try to help them as best as I possibly can. So, and I am booking a couple more. I don't have a whole lot of spots, but I do have spots for IEP makeovers and getting your IEP straight, goals made, and everything ready to go in the right way for your IEP. Or I can create and redo your whole IEP and then attend your IEP if that's what you're wanting as well. So PM me if that's something you're interested in. I only have a few spots left. Yeah, it's coming. So you're so welcome, Kim. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow I'm going live on the group. So if you guys are not members of my group, it's Autism, put in the search section, Autism Mama Rocks the IEP group, and it should pop right up. I believe you can find it somewhere on this page too. But always click notifications wherever you are on the group here, and at least you'll know when I go live, and then you can catch it later. And for those of you who have gotten my free checklist, for many of you, you've said thank you and that you received it. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you like it. And if you've gotten the checklist or you're on my email list, you guys will be getting an email tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check that out. What do you want a spot for, Darla? I'm not doing a Zoom this time for my course because it's a smaller course. My big course is the whole enchilada. The smaller course is it's specific to services, accommodations, modifications, the laws with it, and everything in between, data, etc. How to take everything that your child needs when you know they need specific services and everything, and then you need to go get it and it's hard to get. They're saying, no, 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 no. I tell you how to go get it. All right, guys, I hear you. How about I do a webinar soon? How about that? I was thinking about doing a webinar in the end of August, beginning September. All right. Oh, that's awesome. Yes, I need to do more Zooms. I know. I've been crazy busy with a due process. So that's what I've been doing. But I need to do a Zoom. I know. All right. For all you course members. So I promise I'll post that. Okay. We'll do a Zoom pretty soon and we'll do that. We'll do like a Q&A and all that fun stuff. All right. All right, guys. So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. If you want to catch me live, you can do that tomorrow over on the group. And I will be going live over there. All right. And it's a new month coming soon in July. So you guys know I give away stuff every month. All right. Last week or last month or this month, I gave away $25 Amazon gift cards. And next month, July, we'll be doing some more giveaways. So stay tuned. All right. And I always do it on my group, always on my group. All right. So giveaways are always on the group. Okay. So I will talk to you guys soon and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow over on the group. Take care.